Simple equation here. Stress equals lack of clarity plus lack of cash. If you don't have clarity, you don't have cash, you will be stressed. We are going to solve those problems today. I am Paul, a fractional CFO for home service companies in the $2 to $20 million range. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the real reason why you're stressed by improving clarity and improving your cash flow. So why do home service businesses struggle to sleep well at night? Again, sometimes that's just like a metaphor or whatever it is. It's a saying, I just can't sleep well at night. I promise you we could all sleep well at night if we had a clear vision, clear understanding of where our business is today and where it's going, and we didn't have a cash problem in our bank account because we feel like our business is out of control. We cannot sleep well at night because we feel like our business is out of control and we don't have clarity on what to do about it. We've tried a bunch of different things. We have all the gut feelings. We've tried this because we read about it in a Facebook group. Somebody said this on a podcast, but instead of trying to solve these actual problems, we actually just make excuses that sound great to us. So what do we mean by that? We can always convince ourselves why we don't have any money in the bank. And that's just not on a business level. That's on a personal level as well. We can say, well, I spent a little bit more this month, but next month I'll get better. Or, I had a couple of big expenses that I just didn't plan for, but I'm going to start making more money. I'm going to get raised next year. Same thing as a business owner. Business owners are going to say all the different things. We just need to get a few more techs out. Once we get a few more techs trained and out in the field, we're going to be great. We're actually just reinvesting in our business. I hear that one a lot. If you listen to a lot of my podcasts or watch some of the YouTube videos, that's one of my pet peeves. We're just reinvesting in our business. Or, like I've said in previous videos as well, once we get to X dollar amount, then we'll be great. However, if you've been doing this long enough, and if you take the time to reflect and look back at your journey, you'll start to realize that nothing has actually changed. You might be doing more revenue because you've been in business longer and you're growing organically. However, if you still don't have any money in the bank and you are still stressed and you don't have clarity, that is a recipe for eventual failure. Again, the real reason you're stressed, that's what we're going to go into today. And how are we going to fix it in 90 days? So what are the 3 steps? Trying to keep it super simple. I've broken it down to kind of 3 steps that we need to implement in the next 90 days. And we're going to break it up into, call it 30-day sprints, 30-day windows. So step number 1, we got to get clarity. We've got to get clear on where are we at? The goal here is to see the truth and not let the numbers hurt our feelings. To be honest, that's one of the biggest issues I experience myself when we start to look at the numbers with other business owners. It hurts our feelings. And when our feelings get hurt, we get defensive and we start to make excuses. The most successful businesses, the most successful business owners remove the emotion when it comes to the success of their business, good or bad. No matter what it is, we're going to let the numbers dictate where we're at, what's going on, and most importantly, what do we need to do about it? So we've got to get clear on a lot of things. And if you, again, I'm going to hit it many times, but if you watch all the videos on my YouTube channel, if you listen to all the podcasts, especially the solo episodes, we talk about the same things a lot. At the end of the day, business is actually pretty simple. It's the basic blocking and tackling. All the other bright, shiny objects out there, yes, they can, move the needle a little bit, but until we do really good fundamentals, we're really good at blocking, we're really good at tackling, we're really good at moving the ball down the field. All the other things don't really matter because we're just, we're using these fancy AI tools for a business that doesn't make any money. First, we got to get the business to making money, which means it needs to be financially healthy, which means we need to have the clarity, we need to have the cash so that we are not stressed out. So step 1, again, is get clarity. The goal here is to see the truth and not let the numbers hurt our feelings. Probably the biggest thing we need to get clear on is our gross profit margin. Depending on your business, this will change a little bit, but we've got to get clear on the gross profit. What is gross profit? Revenue minus cost of sales or cost of goods sold. You might hear some people call it COGS, C-O-G-S, cost of goods sold. 2 biggest things that are driving cost of goods sold is going to be our labor. So all the field labor. So the cost to employ people out in the field, our service techs, our installers, our apprentices, their payroll tax, their 401k, their health insurance, their benefits, their workers' comp, all of that goes into employing people in the field, and then all of the material, equipment, supplies that we're using out there. Depending on your business, your all-in labor should be between 20 to 25% of your revenue. So if you're doing $1 million in revenue, our entire cost of employing everybody in the field should be between $200,000 and $250,000. Take that to then what does our material need to be? And again, our material is going to be all of the things that we really use, put in people's homes. Should be between 15 to 25%, depending on your industry, depending on, not only industry, but are you more commercial, are you more residential? But our material should be between 15 and 25%. So if you add that up, our cost of goods sold between labor and material should be 35 to 50%. We're also going to leave a few percentage points for kind of miscellaneous things that go into cost of goods sold as well. Financing fees. So if you're offering finance to your clients and homeowners, and if they say yes, there is a cost involved that the business owner gets charged. So we want to make sure that's included in cost of goods sold as well. Permits. So if you're pulling municipality permits to do any sort of work that you need a license, you need inspection, we need that cost. And then other things like rentals, equipment rentals. So if you need to, rent a skid steer, you need to rent a trencher, you need to rent a bucket lift, something like that. Anything else that you need to rent for work in the field. So do all that. We need our gross profit to be between 50 and 60%. That's what we got to get clear on. Once we get clear on that, let's start dial in on 5 to 7 KPI numbers that we're going to track. If you don't track any, even 3 is better than none. So I see a lot of business owners get overwhelmed because they're trying to go from 0 to 60. If you're not tracking anything right now, track 3 numbers. Track your labor, track your material, and track your gross profit. If you already do those 3, let's bump it up to 5 to 7 to see some other things. What's our call booking rate? What is our field closing rate? What is our average ticket? What's our cancellation rate? Things like that. So track these every Friday for the next 30 days. So call it 4 or 5 weeks. After that, you're gonna do a couple things. One, you're gonna see trends. So you're gonna start to see what numbers are good when you had good weeks and what numbers are bad when you had bad weeks. You're also going to be building a habit that now you start to look at numbers. Again, you don't need to be an expert in your P&L and journal entries and accounting and balance sheets and all that, but you do need to know what's causing the success or failure of your business. So let's start doing that on a weekly basis for the next 30 days. After we do that, it's a habit and we just continue to do it. Step number 2, once we've got that, call it gross profit foundation there, which a lot of it's a lot of operational efficiencies, making sure our labor's dialed in, our materials dialed in, our pricing's dialed in, looking at revenue, labor, material equals gross profit. We got to get those things dialed in. Now it's time to start to improve those things. Again, you're not going to solve all these problems, but in the next 30 days, you're going to start to, so this is day 31 through 60, you're going to start to at least work on and build some fundamental habits, values, processes, standards within your company that you'll continue to refine and implement as time goes on. Here are some examples if you don't know what I'm talking about. It could be, we don't give 3 options to everybody right now. Let's start giving 3 options to everybody. A good, better, best mentality. People like to buy instead of be sold. They like to have a few options because then it feels like they're in charge. If you don't have any sales training, start doing sales training. If it's overwhelming, do it once a month. Once you get once a month, do it every other week. Once you do it every other week, do it every week. So start working on that. Again, going back to step 1, if we haven't done it already, let's look at our call booking rate. Start tracking that, not just like thinking about it, but actually track it. If you don't have a system, if you're not using ServiceTitan will do it for you as long as you're set up and doing it properly. You can use something like CallRail. You could use a Google Sheet and just have your CSR do it manually. Again, the key here isn't perfection. The key here is progress. Closing rate. No matter what CRM you use, as long as you're using a CRM, it'll tell you what your closing rate is. If you don't use any CRM and you're doing all your invoicing through like QuickBooks or Xero, we'll start tracking it. How many quotes did we give out this week and how many said yes? Super simple exercise. Make sure we're priced properly. That goes back to making sure our gross profit's dialed in. Looking at our average ticket. What are some things we can do to improve our average ticket? What are things you can offer that are nice add-ons that your customer would actually appreciate if you told them about it and you recommended them, for the service or product, whatever it is that you're selling. Another one, database reactivation. Sorry, database reactivation. What does this mean? If you have 1,000 people in your database and you don't talk to them after they pay you for the job, let's start reactivating them. If it's the winter and you have some offer that is seasonal, remind them about it just to stay top of mind. Start sending newsletters to provide value. It doesn't have to be selling anything. It just has to remind your database that, hey, we're still here, we exist. And it's wild what happens when you start doing that. They're actually going to reply to your text message or email and be like, oh my gosh, Paul, thank you so much for reminding me. I actually do have a couple of projects that I'd love to get done before my kid's graduation party or whatever it might be. And then one other one that I think is super important that is often overlooked is accounts receivable. So what does that mean? How many people owe us money for work that's already been completed? What is your accounts receivable? So that's an easy way to start getting cash in the bank. Most businesses are owed a decent bit of money and they have no process in place to collect it after the job is done. So what does that look like? You can go to QuickBooks or Xero, whatever you're using, and you can run an age receivables report. It's going to tell you everybody that owes you money and how long they've owed you money. Basically, it's saying, hey, you've been a bank loaning money to these customers at 0% interest for 90 plus days, whatever it might be. Build a process around that. Call everybody today. Send them a text message tomorrow. Send them an email in a few more days. Whatever it is that you got to do, you fulfilled your obligation in that relationship. Now it's their turn to pay you. Do not be afraid to ask for money that you are rightfully owed. So all of those roll up into step 2. We need to improve our revenue and gross profit. We need to quote unquote stop the bleeding. So remember, step 1 is get clarity. Let's get our numbers kind of, in the same space. Let's get clear on them and understand what's going on in our business, especially from a revenue, labor, material, and cost of goods sold aspect. Step 2, the next 30 days, so day 31 through 60, we're going to stop the bleeding so we can start to improve our revenue and gross profit, doing various things, sales training, offering 3 options, call booking rate, all the things we talked about. And then lastly, step 3, this is where, in my opinion, it gets fun, might be boring for a lot of people, but we need to empower ourselves to own the numbers that our business is producing. And how do we do that? First, we've got to get them organized, like we said. Then we need to start focusing on improving them like we did in step 2. Now we're actually going to look at them on a regular basis through a monthly financial review meeting. We're going to look at the entire month. Where were we great? Where did we suck? Where were we okay? And then what do we need to do about the things that we're struggling to make them better? And then for the things that were really good, what do we need to keep doing so those stay on track? So let's create a basic scoreboard. Let's create a basic scoreboard that we can track over time. The best thing about tracking things over time is we start to pick up trends before they become a bigger issue. If we see for the last 3 months that our cost of goods sold continues to go up, if we're not tracking that, we're going to continue to do that in perpetuity. But if we notice it, usually after 2 months, it's like, let's keep an eye on it. If it's the 3rd month, like, okay, this is an issue and we don't want this to happen again. Let's get ahead of it. So we're going to create that monthly scoreboard. Once we do those things, this is where it can get a little bit tricky, but keep it as simple as possible. We can start to forecast cash flow needs. We have our historical data. We know when we're busy. We know when shoulder season is. We can look at what our trends are over the last couple months. And we need to start forecasting how much money am I going to need in the next 6 months? What do we need to do to make sure we can sleep well at night and we're not stressed? We have the clarity, we have the cash in the bank. And lastly, put some sort of SOP in place that you have to follow, everyone in your company has to follow, depending on how big you are, before making big purchases. Let's actually do an analysis instead of how much money's in the checking account. Or if we just buy this thing, it's going to pay for itself. Let's not just use that analogy, like that, mental thought process. Let's actually have a SOP in place of what do we do when it's time to make a bigger purchase. So that's it. That's step 3. Empower yourself to own your numbers. Monthly financial review, create a scoreboard, start forecasting cash flow, and have a SOP in place that you can follow, your team can follow when it comes to making better decisions. We do these things. Again, step 1 is first, we've got to get clarity. We got to get our numbers in the right place. We got to get our chart of accounts set up properly. Got to start tracking a couple KPIs. Step 2 is we're going to stop the bleeding. We're going to start, really, now that we've kind of got our numbers clear and we know where we're going, now we're going to start to improve our revenue and gross profit. at least in the areas that we need to. And then step 3, we're going to really start to take ownership of the numbers and review them on a monthly basis. We do this, and we do this every single time, and it turns into a habit. We will sleep better. Our business will empower us to live a life of our dreams. That is one of my biggest goals. One of my biggest visions for anybody's business is, let's think about what our ideal life looks like, and then let's build a business that empowers us to live that life. We are proactive instead of reactive, and we can finally scale with confidence. So that is all I have for this video. If you're feeling a little bit stuck, you're tired of guessing, you're tired of not sleeping well at night, and you're always a little bit stressed out, and you're ready to get that clarity that you deserve, schedule a free call with me today. I'll show you exactly where the cash is going, what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, and then we can put a plan in place. Again, this is totally free. Put a plan in place to help you get to where you want to go. The link is in the description, or you can just go to thebluecollaradvisors.com, connect with me there, and we'll chat soon.